My name is Tanya Curry, and this is this week's Acumen Media Report. It's entitled, Ndlozi, the Media Expert. If you've got bad news, drop it on regional radio. I'm afraid it's been a tough week. I've had all sorts thrown at me, and I must be honest, I'm not feeling so well. I was going to skip this week's report and stay in bed, but then I saw the stupidest thing I've seen in a very long time. Ndlozi tried to grapple with the concept of media buying. Not just grapple, but he intended to prove racism amongst media buyers. I watched an insert where he was telling the audience that black radio stations matter and that they don't get enough media spend when compared to the likes of 702. He used SABC stations by way of example, forgetting that they offer huge discounts and added value when you purchase time on SABC. I have a duty to set the record straight. Some of you might find this a bit of a bore, but given the week I've had, I beg you to indulge me. Ndlozi, I have 2 words for you. Target audience. One cannot criticize the media landscape, especially radio, without understanding how radio works, and clearly you do not. Listen carefully. There are 3 different sets of radio: the independents, SABC, and community radio. In total, this gives us about 150 stations in South Africa to work with. I've been working in the media game for decades, and although I've spent most of my life in editorial monitoring, I've also had my time with advertising and media buying. Let's start with editorial, as that's my forte. What is editorial? It is when the DJ or talk show host picks up a topic or a person to feature. This could be good news or bad news. Generally, it's bad. You've all heard the term, if it bleeds, it leads. Sadly, there are not many vernacular talk stations. There are a few, the biggest of which is Ukhozi FM, and Ndlozi got that right. Ukhozi is the second largest radio station in the world and is treated as such. It is prioritized in all media buying and editorial work because of its enormous reach and its impactful messaging. Once you've pushed your message to Ukhozi, you're left with primarily English stations. Prime Media, 702 and Cape Talk, and some of the independents remain talk-heavy, but they also play music like Kaya FM and YFM. The rest, for the most part, are music stations that carry news breaks. For example, 5FM, Mhlobo Waneni, and Lugwala Gwala, all commercial and SABC stations. They have to be treated in isolation when you consider messaging and advertising. 5FM, by way of example, broadcasts nationally across the whole country, where Mungana Laneni do not. Now let's look at the life of a media buyer. These are the people who place adverts on radio. Their task today is to promote a new shop in William Nicol that sells Levi jeans. They don't just simply say, I have some chommies at Tobela FM, so I'm chucking thousands of rands at that station. Tobela's broadcast is isolated to Polokwane, and that is not the audience for a William Nicol shop. That, Ndlozi, is called bad media buying. The audience, the demographic, if you will, it should be Gauteng-based and not too far out in Gauteng. Choosing to place adverts on a community station like Hot FM or Mex FM will only draw a certain number of audience ears. You see, they are community stations, and they have a smaller listenership when compared to 5FM and Metro FM. A smart media buyer would choose 5FM, Metro FM, perhaps a couple of music stations to complement their strategy, like a Highveld, YFM or a Kaya, and some community to spread the message. These would have to be the stations that show aspirational purchase tendencies. We are dealing with Levi's after all. Dropping your ads on Pala will not get people into your shop in Nicolway. Fact. These are facts, Ndlozi. This media strategy, if it was with a good agency, would spill over into editorial content. Here, companies like Acumen will monitor the mention of the new Levi store in the media. We are required to listen to 24 hours of tape on any radio station, which is nigh impossible. We would need 300 plus people to listen to all those stations and summarize what we heard about your genes. So, we work smart. We begin with talk-heavy stations, and then our clever tools pull out the repetitive music and jingles, leaving us with just the small talk and the news items on other commercial stations. We leave communities for last, and here we repeat the removal of the music process. If we weren't smart, we would have a salary bill that a client couldn't afford for stations that produce little editorial coverage. We have to prioritize crisis, see? If a client is in a situation where there are headline news like clicks in their fine hair story, it will first break on a news station. And if we're busy dabbling in communities first, we will only hear the crisis long after it's broken. The key to handling crisis is speed. It's that simple, Ndlozi. I think the People's Bay should sit down with a strategist. Even the EFF zone strategist would work because their narrative is handled exceptionally well. And it's not on community and vernacular stations half as much as it is on the big hitters. Not everything is about race and bias, sir. Stick to your politics and we'll stick to our marketing. Okay? My, that was a rant, wasn't it? I apologize. Because it's Friday, and also because I take stupid shots at my industry, it makes me angry. No one understands how hard we work to make you look good. Let's focus on primary news this week, the big and social media trendsetters. In case you missed it, it wasn't on Tobela FM. The war waged on in Ukraine. We kept hearing that no one is getting involved, but everyone is sending arms to Ukraine. I once heard a phrase, war is just a money-making machine and we are just collateral. Imagine how much money is changing hands as refugees flee for their lives and civilians are killed. Arms are not the only money churner. Oil and gas make the war seem more terrifying. This week, the US met with Saudi to beg for oil. I wonder how that went. Here back at home, Darlene Porfu, well, talk about a bad week. I think I may be cheering up, actually. Another EFF crony was in the firing line, literally, this week. And Porfu was found guilty of breaching the ethics code when he told fellow counsel LaRue to shut up at the state capture inquiry. A bit like I want to tell Ndlozi. He's going to appeal, of course. I've never rated Dali. He meanders and uses political rhetoric in a legal setting that has nothing to do with politics and everything to do with grand theft. Comair and British Airways were grounded indefinitely, and the prices for a one-way flight to Durban rocketed to 3,000 Rand, where they would normally be around 800 bucks. A little later in the week, indefinitely had an end date, and both airlines are back in the air. Maybe I should have listened to Ikwekwezi to understand what on earth happened here. In politics, mainly sourced from TV and mainstream online news, for those who care, Ramaphosa is on the money hunt for looted funds. He also called Zelensky and he extended the state of disaster. That was the story that got Steenhuisen frothing in the Ramaphosa Q&A. John wanted to know why, and we want to know why, that we still had the state of disaster. We all know why. I can't believe you asked such a stupid question. Once we drop the state of disaster, we have to pay back the money that was stolen. Duh. Good news made its way to South Africa. Senzo's alleged killers have been arrested. Finally, about time too. Trevor Noah stood up for women's rights in the face of the almighty Ye, Kanye. He didn't like it, Kanye, and he turned to racism to throw shots at a black man from South Africa. Not a black man from America, a black man from Africa. Stupid does as stupid does. More political news found on high-yield stations and media outlets, not Lesedi FM or Zwelinziva Vavi may be suspended. DA's Mbali Ntuli resigned. She said she didn't say it in so many words, but this was because of Zilla. But Tabile Dlamini did such a bad job that there is now talk of disbanding the Women's League. Can someone tell Trevor? My advice, tweet at him. Don't go for Tigerberg FM. In other news, apparently South Africa wants to prosecute Facebook for being hoofed from a WhatsApp service. We have more water shortages than we have radio stations, and the Charlotte Mateka Hospital had a mass exodus of nurses and staff, over 200 of them, because of no pay, no food for the clientele, and no care. Perhaps they should announce that on Clicks Radio. I'm Grumpy Tonya Curry, and you've just scratched the surface of the media, the real media, over 7 days.